In Uganda, a long drive from the city of Kampala, way out in a rural area, there are some farmers live in a village, and they're subsistence farmers. They grow crops each season to feed their families and don't have anything left over to sell. I was doing some leadership coaching with the director of a nonprofit that works in Uganda on agriculture, and they were doing a project to do education and supply better seed and fertilizer and help these farmers use the same amount of land to grow more crops and feed their families better and have something to sell to raise some money. And as I talked to him from week to week, he was giving me updates that they had done the education with the farmers, the crops had been planted, the weather was pretty good, and we were really hopeful for what would happen with the harvest. And as the weeks went by, the crops grew and they looked really healthy, and we were just excited about it. The harvest came, and the director gave me an update that the yield was excellent, that they had actually produced twice as much crops on the same amount of land as they had the season before, and they were going to have a lot to sell and raise some serious money for their families. The nonprofit arranged a truck to come out from Kampala with the staff of the nonprofit and pick up the crops, the corn that had been grown. And when the truck got there to pick up the corn, it was nowhere to be seen. The crops were gone. And of course, the staff was distraught about what happened to the crops. This is a whole season of income for this village. Were they stolen or what happened? And the farmers in the village said, no, they weren't stolen. A crop trader came by yesterday and offered us half price for the crops in cash, and we took it. And of course, very disappointing for the nonprofit that their extra increase was completely lost due to this decision that the farmers made. But unless we get too much of a sense of superiority, let me point out a couple things. One is that these farmers didn't have a backup plan. They needed those crops in order to survive. And they didn't know for sure that that truck was really going to take those crops to the market and not steal them. They didn't know for sure that those crops would sell or that that money would ever come back. So when someone offered them a guaranteed survival amount of money, they took it. They didn't think about the long term. They couldn't afford well to think about the long term because the risk of not surviving in the short term was very pressing for them in reality. And also, lest we feel too superior, I think this is a great opportunity to look at our own lives and say, where do we have opportunities in our work or in our investments or in business or jobs or relationships? Where do we have opportunities to do something today that will give us back double tomorrow or in the future? Maybe that's going to get some training and education. Maybe that's leaving a job that has no future for one that has a great future. Maybe that's investing in relationships or investing in the 401k plan. This is one of the central ideas of investing, and I talk about it in the book, the ability to look at the long term and make decisions today that maximize our outcome then